Hey, what is up, everyone? This is Ete with another episode of The Company Next Door. I am in the middle of moving, and so this is actually my last episode here at my current home studio, and I'm excited because my good friend, one of my best friends that I've met in Utah is here with me, and I've been trying to get him down for like 5 months, and he doesn't answer my phone calls. No, I'm just kidding. He's busy. But anyway, I'm excited to close out the home studio setup here. We'll continue the show. Obviously, we'll be on the road. We have another studio in town. But anyway, with me is my friend Brett Lee. Brett, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Ete. I feel honored to be the final in the home studio.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. So when I moved to Utah about 9, maybe 10 years ago, Brett and I met literally pretty much as soon as I got here. And we connected very quickly because at the time I was just new in business. I just come to Utah. Everything was new. We had this barn, and I'm brewing compost teas. No clue what I'm doing. Anyway, one day Brett came over, and we're just like, we found that we both have a lot of curiosity, and we both are kind of crazy, and we will basically try anything, and we get excited by anything. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. So anyway, over the last decade, we've just had a good time, throwing ideas at each other, checking in with each other. Sometimes if I have, something going on, I need some guidance, I'll call Brett. He's that kind of guy. And so it's cool to have him here. And he's always thinking. He loves business. And anyway, he loves international business.
Yeah, that's true.
He's like, I try to get him to do something here in the backyard, but he won't do it. He just wants to be working in either China, India, the Philippines. Anyway, so I want to this is our chance to kind of dig into that and see what is going on in there, and how he got so obsessed with international business and some of the fun ventures he's had over the years.
Yeah. I'm excited to do that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So let's do it, man. So Brett grew up in a very large family.
Yeah, I did. One of 10 kids, third oldest of 10 kids. And I spent most of my childhood in Oakley, Utah, a small town. And
where is that?
It's up in Camas Valley, just east of Park City. And incredible place to live, incredible parents. I think there's good and bad with growing up in a big family. Sure. Probably you could say the same about a small family as well. It just depends on what you make of it. And something that I really liked about being in a big family is I felt a lot of support. I have incredible parents that love me and love our family, and incredible siblings. We get together probably once or twice a month. And that's we have four of us outside of the state of Utah and 6 in the state of Utah. But when we get 6 people together with
all their kids,
4 kids, we're a big.
Where can you even get together?
We're a big COVID risk. We are breaking the law everywhere and every turn. So, but we love it. It's so fun to get together and for my kids to feel like they know their their cousins and their uncles and aunts for sure.
Now you though didn't follow the 10-kid rule.
No.
I think you stopped at 5.
We have 4.
4. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, we have.
I just
4.
added one for you.
Yeah.
Your kids are at home like, what, Dad?
Toss another one in.
Meredith is like, what did I just hear? Okay, Meredith, I'm not. Okay, that was a mistake. Go ahead.
But yeah, we have 4 kids. We have 2 girls, a boy, and then a girl on the end. And we're getting to a new phase in our life. We feel that our kids are getting older, and our youngest is 12 years old, and our oldest is a senior in high school right now. So for us, we're entering this new phase of what does life look like for us in 6 to 8 years when the kids are grown and off to high school or off to college and doing that. What does life look like for us? What do we want to do? So,
yeah, and I know just from our talks, I know you are antsy in some ways because you've done so much traveling, you've done so much different, coming up with different ideas and things. And so it's hard sometimes when things are really well and calm.
Yeah. And as you mentioned before, I really, really love international business. And I feel really blessed to have a wife that likes to travel and is very adventurous. And something that I've always loved about the international side of life is new cultures. And I love being in a culture that I don't know with people that don't speak my same language, and I really thrive and get excited about that. I love to be with them, see them washing their clothes, see them preparing their meals in a way that I think I really, really love. And so we're hopeful that we can get our financial lives in order in the next 8 years and hopefully do some good in the world.
So you went to Thunderbird.
Yeah, that's
right?
correct.
Which is is that in Arizona? Okay.
Yeah.
And is that an international business school?
Yeah,
Or-
it's an international
Okay.
business school, and
so is that where you develop this intrigue and love for culture? And because you grew up in Oakley, Utah, which most people in Oakley, Utah, or even Heber, Utah, they don't go too far.
yeah,
They might go to Lake Powell. They might go to, maybe if we're lucky, they'll go to New York. What did you expand as you were a kid or something?
yeah. I don't know. I've always been intrigued with it, and so even as a young child, I remember geography was always my favorite subject. I loved to see maps, and I loved to look at different countries and see what was happening, or see back before the internet, right? But like pull out the encyclopedia, if anybody knows what that is anymore, and read about these different countries and think about, wow, that's interesting that these people live in this random part of Africa has always been really intriguing to me.
Just always a natural like curiosity about and interest in other countries.
Yeah, and as a kid, we moved a couple times. We moved out to Memphis for a couple years, from Utah to Memphis, and then out to Kissimmee, Florida, out near Orlando. And I loved it. I loved being in that new environment.
The change in the culture.
Yeah, the change of it. I think I get a little bored. Maybe it's ADHD or something in me, but I get a little bored sitting in the same spot in the same thing. So
well, and some could say going from Oakley, Utah to Memphis is another country.
maybe it is cultural.
I mean, America's crazy that way. Like you can literally experience. I mean, it's so diverse.
Yeah.
So anyway, I got you. So you guys moved a couple times, but then you came back to Utah.
Yeah, we
with
came
the family.
back. Yeah, we came back when I was in 6th grade, and then I finished up in that small town in Oakley, and great place for a kid to grow up. You know, my brothers and I shooting BB guns, going down to the river and shooting whatever we could see, and did crazy stories. You know, there's an oldest sister in my family, and then there's 4 boys in a row, and then we alternate boy girl.
Gotcha.
And down as it goes, you know, and to the end, and those 4 boys in the middle, and my poor mom is trying to survive and take care of all these kids, and the 4 of us are just out going crazy, you know.
I always wondered, were you guys in like a 10,000 square foot house?
No, actually the house in Oakley, I don't even know the square footage, but it couldn't be maybe more than 3,000 square feet.
Wow, with 12.
Yeah,
with
with 12 total. Yeah. So
it doesn't exist today. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You have a family of 3 with a 6,000 square foot home.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you have, right. And we're 2 years apart, basically. All of us are about 2 years apart, give or take. And so as a kid, when you're getting ready for school, there's 1 bathroom for all of us.
Wait, how many sisters?
I had 4 sisters, 4 sisters and 5 brothers. So there's 6 boys and 4 girls. So I remember at church at Sundays getting ready for church, you just set your clothes, or at any time, you just set your clothes out in a row. And then as the person came out of the bathroom, you just like, Brett, you're next, Bart, you're next, whoever it was. And just then whoever's clothes were the next in line, they picked them up, ran in, did their thing, and came back out.
Gosh. So I'd hate to be last, especially if there's showers. Because you're getting cold. It's all cold, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But it was a great time. Really good time.
And I love that. Totally off tangent, but I know sometimes like we were saying, like today, it's like everybody needs a humongous house and humongous everything. And it's like, some of the best stories are just, it's not about that. Like, it's a massive family in today's standards in a small house.
Yeah. And my dad always worked really hard, you know, and we had enough and we did really well, or fine.
Sure.
But I think that more and more, I think we get fixated in life and in the world on money, on power, on prestige. And at what point do you say, what is enough?
Yeah.
Right? What is enough for you, and being content with what's enough. And I think when you feel content, the money doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. And that's when I think that's the sweet spot personally.
Yeah.
Like sometimes success is, whatever, a huge company, whatever, right? Or a medium-sized company and $500,000 in a bank account. But I actually think success is more closer to what you said. When you find this, it's almost a mental space, this sweet spot where you just are content, you're happy. Mm-hmm. And because of the people in your life.
Yeah. And you feel very content with where you're at. I once was at a conference in Hank Smith. I think he's at BYU and Brigham Young University, but he was talking about being happy to a bunch of high school students, and he was saying that from 0 to 20, those years are all about pleasure.
Okay.
Everything that you do is about pleasure.
Yeah.
It's cool things, it's new cars, it's whatever, fancy things, it's good food. And from 20 to 40 are your, what did he call it? 20 to 40 are your passion years.
Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
20
Building your career, your companies, whatever.
Yeah, 20 to 40 are your passion years. And so you're wanting to be big, you're wanting to grow, and you want to have $1 billion in your bank account or whatever, right? And then he said that from about 40 until you pass away, it becomes more about purpose. And at the time when I'm sitting there, I thought, I'm a 38-year-old guy listening to this, and everything was ringing really true.
It was fitting
to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to ask my friends that were about my same age. So I'd randomly just ask them, do you guys feel more and more like you want to be out there helping people and giving more of your life to people and actually focusing on a purpose? And they're like, yeah, it's weird. The last couple of years, I've had this really interesting feeling like I want to
the 40s. Oh.
I want to do that. And so I've noticed that in my own life. It really rang true. And I think that as I've thought about it, I'm much more content with making sure that my kids are happy and my spouse is happy and people around me are happy and serving them.
Yeah. Well, as you said it, I'm like thinking, all right, I'm 37. And yeah, you're right. It's just go, go, go. But I am getting more interested in something else.
Yeah.
You know, something
interesting.
Something a little more deeper, a little less like, why am I working so much? You know, that type of thing.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really good advice for anyone who's listening, man. So, and if you are 25 and you like that, you can go ahead and do that now. Find your purpose now. You don't have to wait till 40.
Exactly.
So what made you decide to go to Thunderbird?
You know, I think from a young child, I always was really interested in business and don't know if I really knew it at the time, but I was always intrigued with it. And I was intrigued with international.
Were you always hustling for a buck as a kid? Like, do you have any stories like selling whatever car wash? Were you that kind of kid?
Not really. We'd mow lawns and we'd do some of those things, but I wasn't that stereotypical kid that, you know, like, oh, I had my paper route and I really wanted to do this and build that. I remember a kid when I was, I think in 7th grade, he was in 8th grade, and he went into Sam's Club or Costco and he bought Bubblicious bubble gum, the little 5-pack big square bubble gum. Yeah. And he'd open his locker during the breaks and he'd be selling this to the kid. And I was like, man, that's a really good idea. He'd sell these things off. And I thought, man, that's a really good idea. And I remember my dad sitting down with us once when he was like, we should start a family business. And so he's like, guys, what do you think about a family business? And everybody's giving their ideas. And the funniest thing, and our family laughs about it to this day, my brother Jed would appreciate this right now, but if he hears this, but he says, I think we should make briefcases. And everybody's like, what? And he's a 4 or 5-year-old kid. And we're like, randomly, like, what is that? Okay, what does that even mean, right?
It's like an old man thing, man. Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's always intrigued me. But as a kid, I remember.
Did you make a family business?
No, we never really did.
Okay.
My dad worked really hard, but he was a 8 to 5 white collar kind of a
gotcha. Well, you got
guy and doing it. And my mom, bless her heart, has raised 10 amazing kids. So it's really been pretty awesome that way. But after I graduated high school, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I went on a mission, which, most of these boys do at that age, 19 to 21 at the time, for 2 years.
And where'd you serve?
And I went to Ireland. And so I served the people of Ireland. And what a great people, and what a great nation and an experience to be there.
And they have there's so much heart and like spirit in Ireland. Like,
incredible
people are just so so fun.
Like, people didn't want to listen to me about religion, and a lot of people would say, don't you know we have a lot of problems here with religion, right, in Northern Ireland? Yeah. And why are you trying to do this? But what really stuck out to me was just their heart. Outside of talking about politics and religion with these people, they would give their shirt and they would help you, and they were kind and loving people. And that experience for me was good from a variety of reasons. Yeah. Spiritually, emotionally, just temporally, my ability to talk to people, my ability to think outside of myself, to see other people's circumstances and appreciate what I had. Yeah. But also to grow up. Yeah. And I think that was a really good thing, to be independent.
Did you get a lot of rejection? So it sounds like people were nice and welcoming, but you had a lot of rejection as far as the message that you were sharing.
Yeah.
Okay.
No one was really interested in listening to what we really had to say, but they were very open to helping.
Gotcha.
And if we wanted to talk about anything else, then, but when it came to religion, they were really not interested.
Okay, fair enough.
Which was fine. But growing up as a kid, I think one of 10 kids, and being a little bit of an emotional kid,
Sure.
it was really good for me to have that kind of a rejection.
Sure.
You know, it was really good for me to see it and to not personalize it. And I think as a kid, I would personalize that, or I would think that people are angry at me when they're angry at a situation, but really angry at me. So I think that was one of the greatest.
So when you
gifts
left Ireland
from that
after
experience,
after a few years, you felt like you were emotionally. What's the word? Intelligent enough to recognize that if someone's rejecting me, that's not me. That's their stuff.
I think I'd started on that path. I don't think I'd
You're still working on
achieved that.
No,
but
I
think,
ask. That's a big lesson in business, right? I mean, business is constantly every day just overcoming rejections.
Yeah.
So I can see that's helpful. Yeah.
And and still, I think why I say I don't think I've really conquered that yet is that even this year, one of my goals is to manage emotion.
Yeah. That's all right, man. Right there
when things come up, and not to take it as an emotional thing, because I think in business, if you don't look at it logically and trust your gut, and you look at the emotion of it, then day to day, hour to hour, you could be thinking of something new or something different or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you really kind of try to push aside the emotion of it, now there has to be emotion in some things, but if you try to not let that rule that decision,
make your decisions more evidence based or more factual or on data.
Yeah.
With enough emotion and passion and heart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But separating emotion and passion in this context, I definitely believe that passion drives people to really good things.
Yeah.
And makes it really awesome. So.
Gotcha. So you get back from the mission, and then at that point you've had your first out of America. You've had your first international experience.
Yeah. Prior to that, I had gone to Hawaii and then traveled. Lived in Memphis, lived in Florida, and I liked being in different places.
Yeah.
I actually really thrive in that. And so I got back and I was studying business and finance at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City, and I always wanted to learn a language. And so I loved the international experience and felt really fulfilled with the Irish culture and learning about that and the people, but I really wanted to learn a language. And so while I was doing my business degree at the University of Utah, I studied Spanish for a few semesters.
Okay.
And one day I was sitting there and I thought, everybody around me knows Spanish.
Yeah.
And it's pretty common to know Spanish here in the United States and in Utah. And I thought, man, my younger brother is in Taiwan as a missionary, and my brother-in-law is in Taiwan as a missionary, and Mandarin Chinese is difficult. Not many people know it.
Right.
Not many people want to know it because it's just so difficult to get your head wrapped around. And I thought, you know what? For me in business, economically, China, that cooperation and that interaction with China is going to be in my lifetime. And in my economic and my work career, it's going to be, that's where a lot of focus is going to be.
And that's come to light. I mean, China, and this huge thing right now.
Yeah. So I turned from there. I said, well, I'm not going to take Spanish anymore. And I took 2 semesters of business Chinese or beginning Chinese, really, I guess it was.
Mandarin?
At the University of Utah, yeah, in Mandarin.
Okay.
And then I graduated from there and went down to Thunderbird. And at Thunderbird studied 4 semesters of business Chinese.
Wow.
And so it was really fulfilling to me to feel that. But then I still didn't have an in-culture experience that I really wanted to see if this was a good fit.
In theory, on paper, it looked good.
Yeah, right. You think, well, okay, I'll just learn it. But you know how it is for anybody that's ever tried to learn a language in the United States, and you're trying to learn it from the book or from Rosetta Stone or whatever means that is. Once you get into a culture and you actually travel to a nation that speaks that language, that is when the rubber hits the road. And you either know, like, wow, I don't know anything, or I'm starting to understand.
Yeah.
But so during the program while I was at Thunderbird, my family and I, we went to Beijing China, and we were there on an internship for about 6 months.
And you say your family and you.
Yeah, so
you were
my
married?
wife, yeah.
Any kids at that point?
2.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had a 2.5-year-old and a 6-month-old, and like I said earlier, grateful for a wife that's really adventurous and really likes things. So we packed up and we moved and went to Beijing for 6 months.
It's crazy.
To try it out and to see this, to do this internship, and I wanted to come out of the program with experience in the country.
Sure.
I didn't want to say to potential employers or people that, yeah, I really like it, and yeah, I can speak some of the language, but I've never been there. And I thought the legitimacy, my legitimacy would be a lot higher if I'd actually been there. So we went there and I worked in an internship, and we loved it.
And that was a 6-month stint, that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
Yeah.
it was real estate? Was it in real estate?
No, it was just in consulting, market
Okay.
research consulting.
Gotcha.
So it was not really focused on what I've focused my career on.
Sure.
But
it got you into China. You could actually, all the studying and work started coming alive as you're there. And
yeah. And you get off the airplane and you're like, all right, we're here, and you're excited and you want to do it. And then that first person that talks to you and you go, what? Wait, what did they say?
Yeah.
And then fortunately with the internship, we had someone there to pick us up. We had someone that had already booked a hotel. We had someone that had found an apartment, and we had all these things laid out for us. And that was great.
Yeah.
But still, when you get out there and you go, wow, I thought I knew this. I'd studied 4 semesters of Chinese at the time, right? And so I thought, okay, I'm getting it. I think my Chinese is right on, and starting to.
And nobody knows what you're saying out there.
And then everybody's like, what are you saying? And you're like, I studied this, and this is how I'm supposed to say it, and you don't understand it. So obviously you're wrong, right?
Yeah, exactly. What's wrong with you?
You native Chinese speaker.
Yeah.
You obviously don't know Chinese, right? That's what you think. But
so after 6 months, you get submerged in the culture, and you start really seeing and getting a feel for China. But you come back to because that's over, and you come back to the States.
Yeah.
Back to Arizona.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so we came back and we finished the program there, and then graduated at the end of 2006. And real estate was also a passion of mine. I've always been really intrigued and loved real estate from a cash flow perspective, and also just from, I think it's an industry that fits me pretty well. And I think, Ete, you and I have talked about this in the past. I'm not a real glamour kind of a guy. I'm not a newest technology kind of a guy. And real estate is a mainstay, maybe you could call it boring, kind of an industry, right?
So that's not your Tesla that I saw parked out front?
No.
Okay.
That would be a Honda Accord.
Again, just very conservative. Yeah, gotcha.
But my kids even would joke about it. They're like, they had this little like tune that they'd sing, like boring real estate. And when we talk about what I did, and they're always like, what do you do, Dad, all day? And I'm like, well, you probably wouldn't understand anyway, but when they were young. But so I graduated and then started in Arizona in real estate, and was working for developers and consulting. We were helping real estate developers in that area. And anybody that knows anything about the economics of our lifetime is that in 2008, things got really rough.
Especially in Arizona.
Particularly in Arizona.
Yeah.
So here we are, we're newly minted MBA, a year and a half out of school. And
two kids?
we had 3 by
Three
the
now.
time.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
3 by the time I had graduated with my MBA. And the world just starts falling apart. So as the prices started to come down, we found a foreclosed home in Mesa. And we're living in this home, and we think, this is perfect. Prices have come down about 30%, and that's about as far as they've ever gone.
It's not going to go any. Can't get worse.
Can't get any worse. So we're getting into this house, and it's foreclosed, and we think, perfect. We've built in a little bit of equity. We're starting to renovate it. We're putting in new carpet and tile and painting and blah, 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 all those things to renovate it. And the market just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And so as a consultant for real estate developers, your job's really not very secure.
Right.
You need developers to want your services. And when that doesn't happen, when developers can't develop, then they don't obviously need your services. So it was this really weird, almost like a double punch for us. We just bought this house,
Right.
and so value's going through the floor, and we had friends that were $150,000 upside down in their homes.
Sure.
And we just bought this, and our values just like evaporating as time goes on, and
then your industry is starting.
And at the same time,
Yeah.
I'm getting paid for what I can bill to clients, and so
Right.
so my income is drying up, and the house value is going down to nothing. So it was just this really weird.
Yeah.
And I'm a year and a half, 2 years out of a program, right?
Right.
So you go, wow, I've got a wife and 3 kids, I've got student loans, I got a house payment. Wow,
That's a lot of pressure.
and you're a little naive at that point because you've never really worked, and I'd never really gone through or recognized a downturn, right?
Yeah.
I think as a kid,
That
or
was
even,
my first, yeah.
even when you're in college or as a kid, you don't really notice.
Yeah.
You can maybe notice that your parents are a little stressed or
Right.
that things are a little bit different. But when you're working in it and you're in a career, then I think that's when
and you have real estate. Yeah.
and you understand. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
so-
my first. I had real estate in Jersey that was doing the same thing. I mean, I bought it there. I think I bought 2006.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm with you. It was like this eye-opening experience, and never having going through it, you really don't know what to expect. You don't know how long it's going to last. You don't know what it's going to look like on the other side.
Exactly. So it was pretty bleak at that time, really bleak. And so we were trying to figure out life at that point, trying to figure out what we should do. And so we told our families, hey, look, here's the situation. Things are drying up. And of course, my wife's from Sandy and I'm from Oakley, and everybody's just saying, come on back to Utah.
Yeah.
Free food, free rent, figure life out, and we'll take care of you. And then you can get a job here. It'll be great. You're near family and you can do that.
That's awesome.
And so we thought, well, okay, that's, we really appreciated the support. We've always felt really grateful for support from family and that side of it. And then the other side of it was, well, you know what? We always wanted to get back to China. We always really wanted to get back to China. We did that 6 months there and wanted to do a longer stint in China. So we're sitting there, and at this time now we have 4 kids. We have I guess it would have been 7, 5, 3, and a year and a half old at the time. And we're trying to figure life out.
Either going back to Utah and being with family and getting some help.
Yeah.
Or going to China with my 4 little kids.
Yeah.
All right.
And so, and prior to this all falling apart in that market, I had been looking for jobs in China.
Sure.
And in Hong Kong and different places. And I had a lot of great interviews, and most of the people would say, hey, well, are you here? And if you are, let me know. We'll just have you come in for an interview. We like your background. We like what's going on here. This is great.
Yeah.
I'd say, well, I'm not. And they say, well, let us know when you're here.
Gotcha.
Everybody was saying, well, let us know when you're here. And any logical person would say the same thing, right? You've never met this person. They look good on paper, but to actually sit and talk with them and know that they're there. And so, because they obviously didn't want to pay to haul a family over there to this place, especially someone that's 2 years into their career. If I was 20 years into a career, and maybe, but it was just a really interesting time for us. And so we thought, well, what should we do? It sounds good to move back to Utah, right?
Yeah.
Logically, it sounds good. Families be happy. We love being near our families and all that. So, or we could just sell everything and pack our bags and go to China. And so, and my wife and I love being together, and it's a real blessing for us. And so it was never a thought that, hey, I should just go over there for 3 months, knock doors, get this thing set up, figure it out. And she's very, very full of faith.
That's
actually,
awesome.
my wife is very full of faith and knows that it'll work out if we try to do the right things. And so we said, well, we're logically sitting there going, we could go back to Utah, or we could just pack everything and go to China. And I don't think I've ever in my life had a clearer picture of what I should do than at that time. And this was a big decision, obviously.
Yeah.
It's a big decision to pack up and go over, and it was just so clear to both of us. And that was what made it so amazing for us, is that we both felt like this is what we should do. So we sold whatever we could out of the house. We packed a 16-foot U-Haul. We put the house up for sale. Someone bought it miraculously. I mean, everything started to fall into place once we made that decision. Everything started to just open.
Just open. The doors
Small
are
doors,
open.
small doors here and there.
I love how that works out.
We didn't know we could sell this van. All of a sudden, someone's like, "Hey, I've been looking for a van." You're like, "Okay, great." Or my brother says, "Hey, we'll buy your car from you." And people buying all our furniture, all those things. It just slowly started happening. And then the most miraculous was, someone came and bought the house. And after our mortgage payoff and about the 20 grand that we put into it, we made probably $2,000, which is
a lot back then. I mean, everybody was losing tons of money.
Anybody that was in that market at that time, or any market that really got hit hard, they were easily $50,000 to $100,000 upside down. And so for us to make $2,000 was
so a lot of
complete miracle.
A lot of little miracles. Just it sounds like once you made that decision, it sounds like it was clear to you. So once you saw it and you made it, then everything just started working out.
Yeah, and that's what I think, and I'm a big believer in God, and I believe that he directs and helps people.
Yeah.
And he wants the best for all people and all of his children here on this earth. And we just felt really grateful at that time that it was so clear to us.
That's awesome.
So then, of course, we had to tell our families, and they're sitting there going, "Okay, wait, hold on. So you could just come up here, have everything taken care of for you for a little while you kind of got your feet on. We'd help you, support you. You could be near us again. You've been away from the family, down in Arizona for 5 years now in total, and you're deciding to go to China." And we would say, it's really what we need to do right now. And people that are outside those situations don't understand it, right?
Sure, because on paper it doesn't make sense.
Because it doesn't logically make sense. But unless you've felt that inside and that gut feeling and feel like the Holy Spirit is taking you and opening those doors for you, then when you feel that, then it's amazing.
Yeah. It's so clear. There's no other option.
Yeah. And you just look at it and go, that's what we need to do. And that's exactly how it felt.
Wow.
So we did it. We sold everything, packed a 16-foot U-Haul, had some in the U-Haul, some in the Honda Accord, drove everything up to Utah, and stayed with family for a month before my brother's wedding. So my brother got married in that month that we were up there.
Gotcha.
And we had one-way tickets. We had 12 suitcases. We had 6 of us. And man, if you ever want to know what a circus looks like and you want to ever get anybody's attention, you go to China with 12 suitcases and 4 kids that are blonde-haired and blue-eyed. And you're just a spectacle.
Everybody's taking pictures?
Yeah, it's just they're trying to hold the kids and you're trying to get out of the airport. And incredible people. We love the Chinese people and we love Asia.
Yeah.
But it was just, we're like a circus, a walking circus. Everybody just like the bearded woman or something. Like, holy cow, look at this spectacle.
That's awesome, man.
So we've got those airport carts, right, that are full of like 6 bags. I'm trying to push 2 of those. Meredith is trying to push a double stroller with 2 kids behind. Like, come on, keep up. And we're trying to get through this airport. And the craziest thing is that I didn't have a job lined up.
Yeah.
Right. And we had a hotel for 3 days. That was the extent of where we were.
I love it.
And we were like, well, we're going to make this work. And my fallback plan was always, if things didn't really work out as quickly as we wanted, I would just teach English.
Okay.
And I think by teaching English, I could make enough to feed everybody to kind of keep us going.
I love that you didn't need it. So, I mean, and I'm sure at the time it came with a bit of anxiety.
Oh man.
But I love that it wasn't all perfect. And you just were like, okay, I know it's right. I know it doesn't make sense, but I'm going to do it. I have a hotel for 3 days. I don't have a job. I've got 4 kids, but you still did it.
Yeah. And
that's awesome.
It was, if it wasn't so clear, it would have been a very difficult decision.
Sure,
And there would have been a lot of anxiety with it, but there was a lot of excitement at the time.
Yeah.
But so we're in this hotel for 3 days. The kids are waking up at 2 a.m. We're all waking up at 2 a.m. because that's U.S. time, right?
Jet lag.
And we're just all jet lagged and we're trying to figure life out. And we had some good friends that we knew from my childhood that happened to be there, he and his wife, and they were in the church there. And so they helped us and get kind of situated and get our stuff to a place. But it's a whole different ballgame from when we were in Beijing, because when we stepped off the airplane in Beijing,
they were waiting for you.
We had people waiting for us. They had our our hotel booked. They had our internship ready to go. They had everything ready to go for us, right in the apartment for us for the 5 or 6 months. And here we show up, we find our way to the hotel in a van, and then we've got our friends helped us kind of get out there, and then I'm now negotiating a lease with a landlord in Chinese, which my Chinese was okay, but not great. And so here we are trying to negotiate that, and we're trying to figure these things out and get the utilities set up and get this done and all these things and find a really safe and good place for our family. And so it was not without anxiety for sure, for sure.
But, it definitely takes some faith and in like you said, in a higher power, in something bigger, but also just in yourself, a bit of confidence to say, you know what, whatever happens, I'll teach English. I know I'm going to do whatever I got to do for my family.
Yeah.
And that's the grit, the toughness that, that you need as an entrepreneur to be successful. It's just when my back's against the wall, I know we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I really learned too is that even when you receive clear direction from God, it doesn't necessarily mean that the path is just going to be roses afterward. Right?
Yeah.
I believe that God wants us to become something better. And he wants us to become different.
Yeah.
And he wants us to ultimately become more like him. And the way that we can do that is not by having everything given to us.
Yeah.
But at times he gives us
some struggling.
Yeah, clear direction. And then there's times when he just lets us struggle.
Yeah.
And so the first week was the hardest, I think.
Oh, I can't imagine.
I remember kind of freaking out after we'd found an apartment finally. We kind of moved all of our stuff to this one spot, and it was on the ground floor. And we just moved our stuff in there, and there were mosquitoes in there. And we moved to Shanghai, and it's really humid. And there were a lot of mosquitoes there. And if you get up about 10 floors, you kind of get away from the mosquitoes. So everybody wants to be above that.
Gotcha.
This one, we were just frantically trying to find something. We got in there. It smelled like rotting fish, and it had mosquitoes in it. And my wife's like, we're not staying here. This isn't working. We got to find something different. And I was just like, oh, please. We've looked for days.
Yeah, I'm
and
so
like,
tired.
So it was not without struggle.
Yeah.
But we found a place to live, and we got that all situated. And then I literally walked around. I had a list of companies that were in real estate because I wanted to stay in real estate. And I would go knock doors, literally. I would go to an office, and I'd say to them, well, 找工作, like, I'm looking for work. And they're like, what? Who are you looking for? And I said, I'm looking for work. I'm looking for open positions. And they're like, let me go get somebody for you. Looking at me like, man, this is really not conventional.
Yeah.
This is really not conventional. But I figured, I'll just start doing that. And there's a real estate group called CBRE. And I'd really wanted to work with that company. And that was one of those that I'd set up something prior to leaving. I'd set something up saying, hey, I'll be there in 3 weeks.
Gotcha.
I'd love to meet with you. And so I meet with this lady in HR, and we're sitting in a conference room and talking. And she says, well, this is great. I know that you're here now, and I know that what you're looking for looks pretty good, but we don't have anything really right now that I know of. But if we have something come up, I'll let you know. And so I sat there thinking, like, okay, you know what? That's just how it is. But right, it's really interesting, and I feel like it was really, I don't know, one of those next steps, one of those next doors that God was opening for us at that time in our lives. And she says, you know what? Hold on just a minute. I there's these guys in consulting that may hold on just a second. I'm thinking, lady, I got all the time in the world. I got nothing going on.
Yeah.
I want this to happen. So
take your time.
You don't know how bad I want this to happen. So, and then about 5 minutes later, these two American guys come in and say, hey, look, we just had this person in our consulting department. She's getting married, moving back to Canada, and we'll probably have this position opening here in the next little while. And so I said, all right, that's great. And so over the next probably 6 weeks, I worked with them.
Wow.
They wanted to see if I could kind of do what they needed done. And so they said, why don't you prepare a research report? Because that's what we do.
Sure.
And then we'll see. And so I spent a lot of time trying to do that. And through the struggle of trying to find these things, and kept knocking doors in the meantime. But
That's awesome.
it came together and was incredible.
And you guys ended up staying there for 3 years?
We
About
were,
3 years?
we were there 3 full years.
Was
yeah.
that all in Shanghai?
Mhm.
So, I don't know if I say that right.
Yeah.
I have no clue how to speak Chinese. But you left. It sounds like you left a very different man that got there 3 years prior.
Yeah.
I mean, that takes some serious guts to go out in a foreign country, especially China. I mean, other countries I can get through, yet I can navigate. But China scares me just because the language, like you said, it's so crazy different. Okay, so you come back to the States after 3 years in China, and then what happens next?
Yeah. So after 3 years, so my job in China, maybe I'll just say that, and that'll kind of give us the premise for why we came back. Yeah, I was working just crazy hours. The Asian culture works really crazy hours, and so I was probably working 9 a.m. to midnight or 2 a.m. most days, and then I'd get home and we'd sleep, and grab something quickly to eat, get some sleep, and then we'd all wake up and then go to the school. I'd go with the kids and Meredith. Meredith was teaching at the school because they were able to give us a discount on tuition if she taught there. So she'd go to the school with all the kids, and we'd go together, and then I'd hang out with them for as long as I could, and then hop on a bus and go into work. And we did consulting, and so we were helping foreign investors and developers that wanted to look at China as a real estate investment opportunity, and so that it didn't know. And so we would do different consulting projects. We'd say, we think you should invest here in this spot, and here's what you should do. And they were 6-week engagements, and then we'd have maybe a day off, and then we'd start another one. And it was just
Gotcha.
a week. We would fly out to the city for a week, do all the research, and then fly back, and then write and write and rewrite and write and rewrite and write, and do just 100-page reports, 700-page PowerPoints with just everything about the market, everything about these land uses, what they could do with it, how their cash flows should work, what they should do, NPVs, IRRs. Here's how you should develop it. Here's what it's going to look like for you.
Wow.
So by the time that, after 3 years of that, just this constant grind, we started to feel a little tension,
Yeah.
and feel like this isn't really working for us. When we left for China, we told our parents, we don't know when we'll be back. We don't know if it'll go well and that we'll be right back, or if we'll need to stay there for a while, or we'll figure it out, or what. We didn't really know.
Wow.
So we bought one-way tickets and said, we'll see you in probably 5 to 7 years.
That's awesome.
And everybody's like, wait, won't you come back in between? We're like, well, I don't know if it's good enough and we have enough cash to
Who
fly
knows?
6 people back, maybe.
Yeah.
But
That's awesome, man.
so we came back. We it was really clear in April of 2012. We left in October of 2009, and in April of 2012, it was pretty distinct in both of our minds that we should get back.
So when you came back, is that when we met?
Yeah, so we bought our house up here in Midway in April 2013.
Okay, so I mean, you had just gotten back.
Yeah, so
For some reason,
we've
I
been
thought there
back
was
for about 8 months.
I thought there was a huge gap. Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
no.
cool.
So yeah, in April 2013 we bought our house up there, but in April 2012 we just felt like it was time to come. And it took us about 5 months. We left in September of 2012 to come back. So we were there 3 full years, but it was pretty clear that we needed to make a change.
Awesome.
At that time, and we did, and came back without a job, and kind of started the whole thing.
That's what I was going to ask. So
I guess all over.
It's funny because you say it's clear, but the whole thing's not clear. It sounds like to you, like it was time to come back. That was clear.
Yeah.
But you didn't know what the next part of your journey was.
We didn't know what the next step in that journey was.
You just knew it was to come back here and the next step begins.
And I think we're both adventurous enough and entrepreneurial enough that we thought it doesn't really matter. You know what? We can make it work and we can figure it out. But what will be best for the family right now is to leave this environment. I can't. My poor wife, it was almost like she was a single mom.
Yeah.
Right. She'd get the kids back from school. She's teaching at the school, so we could get a discount on the tuition because international schools there are $25,000 per kid per year.
Wow.
And so they'd give us a massive discount on the tuition if she worked there. So she's working.
And then
and then hauling these kids. And I mean, you're taking 4 kids onto a subway.
Yeah.
And then you get off of there, you got to find a taxi, or you got to get everybody on bikes and cycle down a mile back home. And then you get home and you're trying to get the kids practicing piano and making dinner and doing all that. And all the time I'm just burning the midnight oil trying to get everything done for these projects. So it was time for us at that time. And we felt that whatever was best for the family we would do. And so we did it. And things have worked out. Maybe not as good as we had hoped, but they've definitely really worked out.
Well, the journey has not been dull.
Yeah.
And that, hey, you know what? Life's about living.
Yeah.
I got to be honest. So I think the journey and the stories you can tell, which I want to get into the next one. So you're home for a bit, couple of years, and you start, and I'm going to fast forward some because I don't know all your story, but this is around the time we meet.
Yeah.
And then you get involved, and maybe there's something before this, but the one I want to talk about is you get involved in the eco pallet.
Yeah.
You start, for some reason, you're begging for some more international business, and you start this company in India.
Yeah.
With a small team.
It's interesting how it works. I've always it's always been this pull for me to do something internationally. And something domestically just hasn't had that same draw necessarily. And so just really interesting. We got back. I worked as a controller for a few companies and did that for a few years. And then met up with some guys, and they had this idea to do a styrofoam shipping pallet in India, to have it manufactured, because one of the guys had some prior experience in that and with that kind of a company.
Sure.
And so we said, oh, that's great. I'm a young, excited kind of a guy. I want to build something internationally.
Yeah. And
so there were 2 other guys in it, and it was interesting. I think the biggest lesson I learned there is people. You know, Jim Collins in his book Good to Great talks about first who, right? He says, get the right people on the bus.
Then get them in the right seat.
And get the key people in the right seats.
Yeah.
And as a young guy, I think I was more enamored, more of the emotion. Getting back to that, what I'm trying to learn is this. It was more that emotion of like, this is really exciting.
Yes.
And I think I missed a few key warnings because of that excitement and the emotion that I would have recognized if I just kind of listened to my gut.
Sure.
And so I think that's probably the biggest lesson from that. But yeah, we had done that. I've been to India 5 times, spent a total of 4 or 5 months in the country.
And give us a brief, because that is a very different experience than China.
Yeah.
I mean, India is a very poverty-stricken place.
I've never seen more abject poverty than in India, of any place I've ever been.
And that had to be hard on one level, too. I mean, coming from where we come from, just anywhere in America, and seeing people that are bathing in rivers. I mean...
Yeah, people that are literally in tarp cities everywhere around that are eating 1 meal a day. And at the time, you know, I have a good friend in India. Still, he's a great friend, he and his wife. And they're very well to do, and his dad is very well connected. And so we would drive down the road in a BMW while we're there. And these poor people are struggling to feed themselves twice a day. And I just felt this oh man, I felt so wrong, you know? And just almost ashamed driving down those roads. And I thought, look at all these people and what they...
Yeah, and I'm in a BMW.
Yeah, and it makes you really grateful for what you have. It really makes you feel... And I think that's one of those experiences that has helped me. I've always wanted to help people, and I've never really... I've always wanted just to be helpful and be of service to people. And I thought, if there's a way that I could give back to that country here in the future, I really hope that we can do something there to help people.
Did you mentioned the people in Ireland, you just you developed a love for them, over there. Same thing in China. Was that the experience here in India after going 5 different visits, and you had the business was running for a few years? Mm-hmm. Did you have a similar takeaway with the people of India?
Yeah. I think...
Because it's so different everywhere.
I think that I really find interesting about people and cultures is that at the heart of it, people are a lot the same. Even though culturally we're different, people, I think there's a goodness and a divinity in everybody.
Yeah.
And you can see that and feel that in people. And whether you're in, India or whether you're anywhere else. And one of the really unique things that I felt came out of this experience in China, and what was really beneficial for us and for our kids especially as they were starting their lives and growing, is to go to different countries. And so when you're living in China, you can get to a lot of countries pretty quickly.
Sure.
And very cheaply, especially with a family of 6, that you couldn't do if you were living in the U.S.
Right.
And trying to travel to this country and then go back to the U.S. and travel to that country, different country.
Did you take your kids then up to some other countries? I mean, quite a bit, or?
Yeah, we went to the Japan, to Korea, to the Philippines, to
That's awesome.
To Thailand, to Cambodia.
Wow.
A lot of different places, and it's just great.
Yeah.
I don't know. We love traveling. Like I said earlier, it's just so exciting to be in a new culture, a new people.
And I do agree. I think it's so important and healthy for children to see it. For that reason, what you said is because you start realizing that everybody underneath, behind the cultural differences, is the same.
Yeah.
We're all people, and for the most part, everybody wants everybody to do well.
Yeah.
And I want my kids to see that as well, you know, because then when you deal with bigger picture stuff, you can have a patience and a love, and you can see through some of the cultural hardnesses that we have.
Yeah. And one of the things the one experience particularly that stands out to me is when we were in Cambodia and we're at the Angkor Wat temples in Siem Reap, and these little kids, this girl in particular that was there, she was the same age as our 2 older girls, basically. And she's out there selling little bracelets. And she's trying to sell us like 10 of these bracelets for $1, you know, and we're trying to say, hey, just take the $1. And I'm just looking at her and her life and her opportunity, and her, maybe the struggle with that she from a very young age is out there trying to help make a living. And our kids have never had to feel like they need to pony up any money to help the family to eat. Right. And so you see those kind of experiences and you talk with the kids about those and they experience that firsthand. I think it's probably one of the biggest blessings of going abroad is to have them feel that and see it and to experience it.
I love that. So let's jump around. So you're in India. So after India, you start working with a good friend of yours, Michael.
Yeah.
We've got to talk about Michael for a minute.
We got to talk
I've
about
never
Michael.
met Michael, but I've heard the story. I don't know if I have. I've heard so many stories about Michael that I have a picture of him in my mind. And tell me where Michael's from. Is it Hong Kong or?
He's from China. He's from Hangzhou.
Okay, because
which
I
is
know,
near Shanghai. Yeah.
So you and Michael, he sounds like almost eccentric, like amazing, like just nonstop crazy energy. He's over there building anything he can, hustling. And you guys get wrapped up in some import-export, you know, with some plants in California.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. And that's probably one of the many things. I know right now you guys are selling on Amazon. I mean,
it's really
the list is
interesting. I like I say earlier, I'm probably ADHD. And that's why I like moving and being in different places and different cultures, because I get pretty bored pretty easily. And so that's Michael is an incredible guy. I met Michael through, funny enough, when we were in Beijing and we went to church and we stood up in the middle and we said, hey, we're the Lees and we'll be here for the next 6 months on an internship. Out of the middle of the congregation stands up my last companion, my missionary companion from Ireland. The last guy that I had as a companion, right?
It's crazy.
And so the two of us, he stands up and he's there with his wife learning Chinese. And I thought, this is incredibly strange. And he had met Michael in university there in Beijing. And that's how the connection was actually made.
Gotcha. And then he introduced you and Michael.
And Michael is just, at the time, Michael was selling pearls. And then he was trying to sell neckties. And then he was taking people, like white Americans, to these English camps and having he'd pay them to go and be English teachers at these camps for 2 weeks or whatever. And then Michael got into plants. And once he got into plants and he married his wife, he's just been so focused on plants and fruit. And that's been his big thing. So I met Michael we didn't actually ever meet until 2009. I've known him since 2004, 2005, basically.
Digitally and things like that.
Yeah. But we met when we arrived in Shanghai in 2009, and incredible guy. And one thing I love about the Chinese is that when you become close to them and become family-like with them,
Yeah.
it is truly like a family to them. And I know some people find it hard with the Chinese because they can be maybe a little, I don't know the word, not deceptive, but a little bit cunning. And they do that until they know the person. Once they know you and you're in their family circle, they're very, very loyal and very, 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 very good-hearted people. And we love that culture and we love the people. And Michael's been that way for, I've known him for 16 years. Probably we've done a lot of business together, and he's always just, how's your family? Do you need any money? How's it going? Very much, and we're both that way.
Like a brother, yeah.
Yeah, and I think he's the kind of, that relationship has grown over the last 16 years we could turn tonight and I could text him and say, hey, Michael, I need $100,000 for whatever, for my family. And he would figure that out.
Yeah.
And he would make it happen. So it's really interesting. It's almost even culturally different than the U.S. because in the U.S., even if you're going to loan your brother $5,000, typically we're like, hey, let's just drop something so we know, what the money is. It's not like that once you get into the family circle. But it's interesting because outside that family circle, there's no trust and there's no that. It's all about trust for that society.
That's interesting.
So yeah, to get back to the story, Michael's crazy and exciting, and he just go. He's up till 3. He sleeps for 2 hours, and he's back at it at 5 or 6 a.m. and just going. And we in 2015. So while I was working and trying to get that India pallet business going, which I eventually left, but while we were trying to get that going, Michael and I are exporting plants, succulents, just the cute little succulents that you see everywhere.
Yeah.
We were taking those and buying them out of Southern California, packaging them, putting them on an airplane and sending them to China.
Which is funny.
And to Thailand.
I thought succulents came from that part of the world, no?
Well, some do, but we were looking at certain varieties of these things, and so we would find these more rare varieties, and the margins were really great.
Wow.
But the challenge, and we've been doing that since 2015.
Are you still doing that?
Yeah, so we still import. We don't send plants to China or to Asia.
Okay.
We import plants to the U.S., but
Gotcha.
But it's an interesting business because when you're dealing with plants or fresh fruit, you can lose your shirt pretty quickly if the USDA holds it up in customs or they find insects or pests on it that don't really work well. You could lose that entire shipment or delay it or have to pay these massive fumigation fees that just takes all your profit out of it. So the margins are great.
Unless you hit a big bump like that.
But you got to know what you're doing. And so we've really honed that in over the last 5 years.
That's awesome.
And so,
because I remember there was a time when you were going down, I don't know if it was weekends or whatnot, you were driving to California.
Yeah.
And you guys were like hustling, packing them up, shipping them out.
Dude, it was just like so grassroots, so
I love
raw.
it though.
So
I
raw.
love that, man.
Yeah, literally driving to California.
That's the part of the business that I like.
Or flying down. And Michael's flying in from China. And he's like, I'm going to be here for 2 months. And I'm like, okay, I'll be here for 2 weeks. And I go home for a week. And then I come back for a couple of weeks. And we were just literally walking nurseries. We want this many of those. We want these. We want those. We'd take them, put them in our nurseries. We'd bare root them, dry them out for a day, package them up, and then just put them on an airplane and just get them over to his people over in China. And they'd unpack them and do it. And so the challenge with succulents is that you can tear off a leaf on some of these succulents,
easily, right?
And then they just start to grow roots. And so what the Chinese were doing is some of these rare types of succulents, they would take them and we'd send 1,000 or somebody, not us, because our people weren't doing it, but other people were sending succulents over to China. They tear off 10 roots off of one plant or 10 leaves off of one plant, put them in the ground, and 3 months later they got 10 plants, and then they take like 10 off of those, and then 3 months later they have 100 plants, and then they have thousands and thousands, And so the margins eventually just kind of went out of that business. But
that's crazy. And you guys have done some other. What are some of the other
products that you guys have kind of been moving over the years. I know you're still doing stuff on Amazon and
Yeah, so we import, mostly what we import is a plant called the adenium, and it's a flowering plant. It looks like a little tree root, and it has these almost like a hibiscus flower that pops out of the top of it.
Cool.
And they're really common in that area. So we import those into the U.S., and then we also import durian, mostly durian.
That's the stinky fruit.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the stinky fruit, because I didn't know it until you said it's called the stinky fruit.
Yeah. If you look up durian, there's this. You can see that there's many times they don't even allow it on airplanes, but we've been able to find some airlines that'll take the durian on there because it's literally titled the world's stinkiest fruit.
Wow.
And so when you smell that fruit, it is really bad. I remember in Beijing, I didn't know anything about it. So rewind to 2005. And I remember standing in a grocery line and thinking like, what is that smell? That is just a really bad smell. And we had our 2 kids there and I'm like, man, did they poop their diaper? What is this? And I noticed this fruit in cellophane in little styrofoam tray in this yellow fruit. And I was like, what is that? And I looked and it was durian. And then I started to smell it, like as I went to different places and I thought, this is woof. But the good thing is that not many people can import it and do import it. And so we pre-sell it and we ship over probably 100 boxes 3 times a month.
From
Thailand.
From Thailand
to LA.
And people in LA want this?
Yeah, there's a lot of Asians that love it. And it's very nostalgic and they just love the fruit. And there's a lot of Asians that I know that just say, I hate that stuff.
Oh, really?
But the people that love it really love it.
So you're providing that product for them.
So we do that.
That's
and
pretty
it's
cool.
good. It's a little bit, over the last 5 years, we've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And so, that's another thing that I've thought about for me. What have I learned through all of these things? What am I learning? How am I developing? And it's like, first of all, that emotion of it, you get so nervous about, oh, what if this shipment doesn't, what if this doesn't, what if that? And you can actually drive yourself from doing a lot of really cool things.
Yeah.
If you let that emotion be, well, I don't know if that's going to work out. And you start to really be such a perfectionist and want to see every last little milestone through it.
Yeah.
And think, well, in 5 years, how will this look? Well, that has kept me on different ventures from doing those ventures because I can't get past that. And I've got this I'm too, I don't know what to say. I'm too focused on how this thing potentially could go wrong.
Gotcha.
As opposed to how it could go
Gotcha.
right and how it could be amazing. But I think we've learned a lot over the last 5 years.
So what else have you learned over the years? I mean, different experiences, different countries, different cultures, different types of business, and you're still working on things. You're still learning every year.
Yeah.
What are some of your takeaways?
Yeah, I think some of the biggest takeaways for me personally is I'm a pretty perfectionistic kind of a guy, and I love detail. I get a little probably too deep into the detail. And so something that I've learned about myself is to try to remove myself from knowing every step. From knowing that, okay, if we do this, this will happen, and letting a little risk come into it.
Yeah.
To expanding a business, not knowing, but being willing to open up and to try it.
So what would you say to, because, darn, I can't think of the exact business term, but yeah, there's 2 types of people, right? There's the person that is open to risk and takes it all the time, and there's the person that kind of has to overanalyze. I forget, there's a phrase for it.
Yeah.
But analyze it to death to where they don't take that risk. What do you say to a young entrepreneur or someone who's wanting to get started? What have you learned? Because you seem to be more on the second.
Yeah, I actually just my personality, I guess, and I don't know what it is. Maybe growing up in a household that we didn't have tons of things.
Sure.
Right. That I maybe always felt like I don't want to rock the boat too much or get too risky and put everybody in peril. Right?
Gotcha.
And so I've tended to be more on the analysis paralysis
That's
side
what I was
of
looking
it,
for,
right?
analysis paralysis.
More of that. I just want to see. I want to calculate this
Sure.
thing. I want to mitigate that risk. But the problem is that a lot of us that have that same mentality, we don't take these steps that really could springboard us into something big.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably something that I've learned and something that I'm trying to be better at. And especially with what we're doing with these plants and that side of it.
How do you share that message, like what the line is between the analysis and the research, not being crazy risk? Some people are like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's go. I'll drop 10 grand on it. And then it's a piece of junk,
Yeah.
But there's some type of line or balance to where you got to do your homework. But at the end of the day, like you're saying, you've learned there is some risk.
Yeah. There has to be a certain, maybe you calculate some percentage and say, when I hit 60%, like that 40% is of the risk.
Yeah.
And I know 60% of it could come true. And every way I look at it, I'm 60% sure this could work.
Yeah.
But just dive in after that, because if not, you'll never, by the time you analyze through it all, someone's already come up with that idea. Someone's already moving on it. And the people that just kind of get out there and do it, just get it done.
They win. So what is next for you? I know you're still doing, like we talked about, some importing. You're doing some fruits, some plants. So what is next for you?
Yeah, I still work in real estate.
Okay.
And I love real estate. I love multifamily real estate, and I work with an investment group in Salt Lake City for my full-time gig.
Awesome.
And we do multifamily apartments, and I really love it. I love that side of it. And the thing that I like about that group and that situation is that it's a very entrepreneurial type environment there.
Yeah.
We all work together really well, and I love the people and the culture and what we do there. And it gives me that entrepreneurial feel, and also gives me that satisfaction with doing the real estate.
Yeah.
But then on the side with all these things with Michael,
That's
I think
cool.
is also cool too.
That is cool. And I like that you brought that up, because I'm that way sometimes. I like to have multiple projects running at once because they kind of fulfill different needs.
Yeah.
And so that's cool. You've got this real estate where you're still learning, growing, and it sounds like you're around some great minds, and also getting a salary, which that's awesome.
Yeah.
But you also have the enough bandwidth on your own time to kind of have these other businesses and things generating, side revenue and things like that.
Yeah, the beauty about knowing Chinese and working with the Chinese a lot is that when they're sleeping, we're awake, and when we're sleeping, they're awake. So
Yeah.
I can get everything I need done with my full-time my full-time gig that I'm doing, and I love it. Like I said, I like the people, I like what we're doing there, and it's really awesome. And then at night, I can help people import things. I have a bunch of friends that I have helped and still help import things from China and different products and different things. And so there's always that part of me that I think it's really interesting, that just that part of, I don't know, I get really excited about the entrepreneurial thing.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that side hustle, and I like that evening type work to help these people, help friends import these things.
I think it's awesome. I think it's so cool. So what is some advice that you would give to someone just getting started out, or maybe someone who's listening and they have an idea or a dream that they want to do, but they're just looking for some advice, in business?
Yeah, I think for me, the scare of losing money has been pretty paramount to me. And I've let that drive a lot of my either action or inaction.
Yeah.
That which goes back to the calculating of the risk and this analysis paralysis. I think I don't want to lose this $5 potentially, but I could make $5,000, right? And really springboard into a business, but I want to be careful. I don't want to lose that. And I think that also that same trait has kept me from doing some things that I've wanted to do.
Yeah.
And from the standpoint of, and wanting to do everything by myself, because I'm kind of a perfectionist, right? And wanting to do everything and fulfill everything and create that business by myself.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed, and as I've read more and as I'm maybe maturing a bit more, is that you need other people and these complementary skills. And you can do a lot more if you have really good partners that really are specialists in what they know and what they're doing. And even if that means giving up some of that business or some of the upside, if you have people that you can trust and that you can grow something together, you can't be everything, right?
Yeah. Yes, I've learned that.
Yeah.
And you generally, your company becomes better as you, back to the Jim Collins book, as you get the right people in there and you just let them do their thing, because they'll have their ideas and they'll have, like you said, their own wheelhouse of ways they view things, and they'll take this idea further than you could.
Yeah. And so say, even from the business standpoint and like what I've been wanting to do in the future, right, is I am a finance guy. So I understand the numbers and the accounting and that side of everything. I know how to import things. I know how to get permits. I know how to do all that side of the business.
Yeah.
But what I'm also trying to do then is be the marketer and be the sales guy and find the distribution channels and all that. And it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't work when your bandwidth is just swallowed up that, and it's so inefficient and ineffective.
Yeah.
So my hope is to just find someone that's an incredible marketer to be a partner with me. Someone that can take that dream, that idea, that we can work on that concept together to find a product or build a product.
Gotcha.
And let that person, that partner in this partnership, be the one that can blast it through the distribution channels and find the sales piece, and I can manage what I'm good at.
Yeah, so if anyone's out there listening and you think you could be a good fit, how do they get a hold of you? How do we, a lot of times when I have a company, I'll put their links or their website in the show notes.
Uh-huh.
What can I put in the show notes just in case?
Yeah. My email and phone number would be awesome.
We'll do that because, like as I'm listening to your story and, you're not afraid. I mean, he's out there in China. I mean, across the world, knocking doors. I mean, he's taking leaps of faith. I mean, there's a lot there. And I love that you've identified as what you're missing is this other piece, this marketing, or someone to take what you're creating and coming up with and get it out to the world.
Yeah, and I think prior to this, I've thought, well, how would that work, and how would a partnership be structured, and how would we do this, how would we do that? But having someone that knows that niche and how to do it is key. And not just in general, just having a partner that you trust and that you can support and build, is key. It's key in marriage. It's key in business. Yeah. It's key in everything. If you guys can trust and support each other, then good things come of that.
Let me ask you this, shift gears a little bit, but what's this been like for your family? I mean, your wife is a saint.
Yeah,
Meredith
I think so.
Meredith is one of the greatest people on the earth. Your kids are all amazing. I mean, you get the best kids. They're so good. They're so good. Such good kids. What's this journey been like for them so far?
I think they've liked it. I think for our kids, when they look back at it, there's something about going to these countries and so many different countries that there's a little confidence. I think maybe that they're like, hey, yeah, I've been to here, I lived here and did that. I think, but just the perspective, I think, has been really good. And Meredith and I, we're very entrepreneurial. I think if our kids were at different ages, like we have a senior and we have a sophomore and we have an 8th grader and a 7th grader.
Yeah.
And so it's very difficult to uproot a senior and a sophomore and kids in those grades especially. But I think if the right thing came, we would move back to China.
Wow.
I think we liked it enough. We like Asia a lot. And not just China, but we'd go to the Philippines or we'd go somewhere else. We would like to live in different countries and be in different places and do that. That's just in our DNA. Yeah. And fortunately, both of us feel that way.
That's awesome.
Fortunately, both of us want to do good and serve and be.
And one thing I've liked that I've kind of picked up on as I've been listening during this conversation is just you and your wife. I mean, you and Meredith, you really seem like a team. Yeah. I feel like every time you've brought her up, it's like you ask a lot of people how their spouses are. Sometimes you get different reactions, But every time you brought up your wife, it's like in this like a team, like supportive, like we do this together.
Yeah,
and I think there's something, a common thread that I'm seeing in season 2, the last 7 episodes I've done, is there's been a lot of talk about the spouse.
Yeah, it's been the biggest blessing in my life to have a spouse that loves me, and I feel bad because in a lot of ways she's always the saint and I'm the one that's always trying to do better and be better, but she seems to never get anything wrong. So I feel bad that I don't probably pull my full weight, but. One thing that's really interesting is that there's a book, I think it's Thomas Stanley, called The Millionaire Next Door. Yeah. And he talks about these people that you wouldn't think were millionaires. but that have, through saving money, through good business practice, through all these different steps, have achieved millionaire status. And you wouldn't look at it and look at their house and look at them and say, wow, this guy's...
Yeah, they're not rolling in Bentleys and Teslas.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and that book, when I read it, I thought, it's really interesting. And one of his points in that book was you have to have good offense and you have to have good defense. And offense from the perspective of, to become a millionaire, you have to be able to get a lot of... I wanted to use the Chinese word because it came to mind, but 赚钱, you need to be able to make money. Good income.
Sure.
But you also need the defensive side of it where you don't need that money going out the back door as fast as it's coming in. You need to have a backstop and you need to have a plan and you need to be frugal and thrifty enough to save and invest and do that.
Sure.
Because a lot of people can make a lot of money, but if you're also spending a lot of money, it obviously puts you in the same boat as anybody that's not making a lot of money and not spending a lot of money either too. So I do feel really grateful for a spouse that we connect on almost every level. And we have little disagreements like anybody and things that maybe don't go quite right. But I think we're both very committed to the relationship and to each other. And I think that gives me the confidence to go out and to be entrepreneurial, right?
Yeah.
That gives me the confidence that I know that she wants me to be successful and she wants me to be happy. And she knows that my DNA is this chaos and entrepreneurial and whatever.
Always,
she doesn't feel like I need an 8-to-5 job.
That's awesome, man.
And
it makes all the difference.
It does.
And it allows you the freedom, and also you can do it knowing that you can come home to a happy family. She's running the whole show at home.
Yeah,
that's how it is.
She is a saint.
So sure. I know, in wrapping up, I know you got, I don't need to ask you because I know what you guys like to do, but one thing that's kind of cool I thought is you guys lately as a family, or not a whole family, mostly family, you've been doing some like local plays.
Yeah.
I went and saw you guys in the Elf play in the theater last Christmas.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun.
That's been a pretty fun outlet for us. I'd never been in a play before.
Yeah.
In our family, and the kids like it, and we thought, well, let's just try it. And so the kids were in one play, and I thought this would be kind of fun. It'd be fun to get out and to get outside of yourself and to do something a little bit crazy and to memorize some lines and get up in front of crowds. And I think the byproduct of that has been the confidence in our kids to do things that maybe they wouldn't have done before. And so it's really been fun.
And what else are you guys doing for fun now, with the seniors, where the age you are? What else you guys
Yeah,
enjoy
we like
doing?
camping.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that we love camping, we have a little pop-up tent trailer, and for us, camping is a good release. It's a good, get everybody away from devices, get everybody out in nature. And I think for me, there's something really healing about nature. And there's something really healing about being in a forest away from things to really listen and to kind of reconnect. And especially as a family, we found that that's been a lot of fun, making really good memories and fun memories and being able to just connect with each other through camping.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So, well, thank you. Thank you for
I appreciate the time.
For coming in and sharing. There's so many takeaways here. A couple things I just want to point out. The story going from Arizona to China just sticks with me because, like you said, it didn't make sense. But you had this clarity, and you just knew it was right, and no one else was gonna tell you otherwise. And you went out there with really not much, 3 days hotel. Where are you gonna go? But that's so cool to me because I've had to experience things like that. Not as dramatic, but there have been times in my life where I had to just make a huge jump and my back's against the wall, and there wasn't an option for failure.
Yeah.
You knew, you know what I mean? You're across the world, so you can't, if you don't make it, you're in a bad situation. And I've been there, and I think sometimes it's a really valuable situation to be in, as unfun as it is at the time, just having our backs against the wall and just realizing, I know at the end of the day, whatever happens, I'm going to take care of my family, and there's something freeing in that as well.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something to me in my DNA that's freeing about taking that kind of a leap, and it was incredible. Like I said before, we just knew it was right at that time for us.
I wish we had more. I wish we had more time because I know a lot of these stories. He's got some crazy India stories. I know you got sick once. Didn't you get real sick?
Yeah.
You've told me once in India they do business a lot differently. Like you have to spend a lot of time just hanging out, playing cricket, that type of thing.
Yeah.
You can't just jump in and say, hey, let's get to business.
Yeah, that's what I think is so interesting about international business.
Yeah.
Is that cultures are just different.
Different.
The Chinese culture, you sit down and it's what? Let's just get it done.
Yeah.
What do you want? What do I have?
Yeah.
How can we make this work?
It's like no emotion almost. It's just like boom, boom, like numbers.
It's very financially driven. It's
Yeah.
very like, I just want prosperity, and I want, because in the Chinese culture with atheism and the Communist Party, it's all about showing wealth and materialism. And so if you can get a lot of wealth and materialism, then your neighbors look at you and go, that person must be pretty good and good and doing something good, right? Whereas I think in a society like the United States, we tend to be more do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And in their culture, it's more as much money as I can get. So atheism, I think, is taken out of that culture, that feeling of doing good to others.
Just down the numbers. But then you go to India and it's about relationships, right?
Yeah, so then in India, when we're trying to talk with these people to buy these pallets and these suppliers, I start getting into conversations, and my Indian buddy's like, hold on, like putting his arm on my arm, like, hey, just
slow down, everybody.
And so like, well, wait, this is a little different. So the U.S. is kind of a hybrid between that.
Gotcha.
We like to get to know people, but we're very contractual in the U.S.
Yeah.
And we want to, let's just figure it out and let's write a contract. You do this, I do that in these situations.
Yeah.
In China, it's get to know them, and that trust is
That's it. That is the contract.
And if you don't, if you break that trust, that's a big no-no.
They'll send a ninja after you.
That's right. That's right. But then in India, it takes a lot longer than the U.S. would want and would think. So it's just this long, kind of drawn-out thing, and you feel like you're never really getting to the point and getting something executed because of how long it takes and these meetings and these people, and you have to meet their friends and you have to meet their family, and every time you start a conversation, it's, hey, how's everybody doing? How are you doing? Whereas in the U.S., we kind of just, hey, how's it going? And then we get into business. China's just going to business. In the U.S., we're at least like, hey, how's everything going? Okay, let's get down to business.
Gotcha.
In India, you almost never get down to business because you're just, how's everybody doing? Helping. And so, but they're a very loving culture, So
that's awesome. Again, the
cultures
power.
That's why I like it. It's so diverse out there.
That's awesome. My last question is, if there is any country right now that you haven't done business in that you really want to, what country would that be?
Wow.
I have a guess in my head, but I don't know, so I want to see what you say.
That's a really, really good question. It would definitely be in Asia. I just feel really drawn to Asia.
Yeah, you love that part, man.
I just feel really drawn there. I would probably say a country to do business with would probably be Indonesia. Huh. We've been importing fruit from the Philippines and from Thailand and from China. But Indonesia, I think, is one of those that on the surface doesn't seem like there's much going on there. But really, there's a lot that's happening. A lot of business that could be done there, but it's being overlooked in a lot of ways. Probably a second or maybe even first would be Vietnam.
Okay.
Vietnam is really an intriguing place because they're this up-and-coming nation as far as economically in that part of the world. And more factories are moving from China because of the Trump trade war and all these things that are happening between this conflict between the U.S. and China.
Sure.
That there's more and more factories that are moving to Vietnam for companies to avoid all the tariffs that need to be paid. Because right now, if you import almost anything from China, there's a 25% import duty on top of what they had before. And so it's just really expensive. And so what's happened is a lot of these factories are moving to Vietnam and other countries in that area, in Cambodia, in Thailand, and setting up factories there. So
that's crazy. Well, it'll be. I'm excited to see what the next 20 years holds. How many more countries you're going to visit and do business. But thanks, man. I appreciate you taking some time, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, this conversation with Brett. Mr. International.
Well, thanks, Dave. You guys are great friends. We really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you in the next episode. Have a great day.